Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and welcome back to Let's Make a Mini. This is the series where I'm going to be taking some of our favourite characters from the world of video games, movies, TV, comics, all that good stuff, and making them as playable tabletop RPG minifigures right here on Hero Forge. Yes, indeed. Now, today we are going to be making just one of the classic video game characters. This is one that I've been looking into doing for a little while, and I think there are some really good options to bring that character to life. And as you can see on the top of the page, that is going to be Link from the Legend of Zelda series. Yes, now we're going to be trying to make Link here as recognisable as possible, which means that we have to have a big focus on those weapons, the sword and the shield, the Master Sword and the Hylian shield, I want to say. But also it means that we might be drawing from several different incarnations of Link to bring it all together to form one cohesive Link, shall we say. So, with that all being said, and without any further ado, let's make a mini. So, starting off, we're actually not going to be using the human build. We're actually going to be using the elf build. In fact, actually, I think it might be better if we use half elf. Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot better. He's got kind of a bit of an angular jaw and quite pointed ears, but not overtly so. Like, Link does have those kind of pointed ears. He is kind of elven in his features, so that's what we're going to stick with. We are going to make him fairly expressionless, like Link is the consummate silent protagonist, expressionless, stoic, all that good stuff. So we're taking that all the way down. Now, in terms of the hair, what we want here is probably, might be the shaggy hair. Let's see what else we've got going on here. The wild hair is probably not quite what we want. I think shaggy is probably best for him. It'll probably even out when we add on his kind of headwear and stuff. Now, he doesn't have facial hair or anything like that, so we're pretty much set there. In terms of the bodywork, his weight is going to come down a little bit. His muscularity up a tad, but again, he isn't a really big built fella, so I'm pretty sure that we're okay to leave it pretty much at that. Once more, not much to do here, just focusing on the hair, the ears specifically for Link. And now we can move on to the fun stuff. It's time to sort out the clothing and the gear. Now, Link. We're going to be going for one of the sort of the green clothed builds. They are what he's most known for. I know in Breath of the Wild he wears blue, but I want to go with the green. Now, if we're looking toward like Ocarina of Time, Adult Link and stuff like that, we do have like these kind of pointed hats, but the wizard hat really doesn't look good on him. It's not what we want. And there is actually this kind of pointed cap, but again, it's not what we're looking for. It really doesn't look that good on him. So what I want to do is bring a little bit of Breath of the Wild to this build, because there is another piece of headwear that we can use, and that weirdly is going to be this, the bandana, which as you can see doesn't look all that bad, and I think with the rest of the clothing, when the colour is in, it's going to work really nicely. So that's going to be the headwear done. I think in terms of the gloves, we're going to do them really quickly. Just the fingerless gloves is going to be fine for this. And now we can focus on the rest of his clothing. Now, Link wears kind of a tunic, not too much in the way of quote-unquote armour in a lot of cases, but in order to get the look the most correct, we're actually going to go with something that Link realistically wouldn't wear, and that's going to be some heavy armour. If we scroll down, the one that I'm looking for is actually plate mail. Because I think that's going to work out quite well. It's got a belt going across, it's got pauldrons and stuff like that, but we can focus in on the materials used. Like, these kind of plates here are meant to be metal, but they don't have to be metal. We can make them into a different colour. And I think we might want to change up the gloves just a little bit. There's something else I was looking for. I thought that the armour came with kind of arm guards, but it doesn't seem like it does. So there are a few down here. That's a bit too ornate, that's a bit not quite right. This, however, the Ornate Gauntlets. Now, once again, As you can see, these are supposed to be metal, but we can change them to leather and even wood if we need to. And it's still got that fingerless quality to it, which I think is going to work really nicely. Now, in terms of the legs, once again, we're going to go with something that wouldn't necessarily feature in for Link, and that's going to be these, the Nobleman's Breeches. Which again, you wouldn't necessarily think of that as very Link, but once again, with the rest of the ensemble, it's actually going to work really nicely. Especially when we add in the boots, and once again, we don't have to go too, you know, off-piste with this. We can just choose something very simple and very effective, and that, much like other characters, is going to be the tall boots. And that's really all we need to do on the clothes. Like, that is pretty much Link done in terms of his clothing. We've taken aspects that wouldn't really be very Link, the heavy armor top, the nobleman's lower half, and this bandana, and with it we formed something very Link, as it were. And that is pretty much going to be his clothing done. Now, Link is going to have a lot more to him. You know, he is, not only is he the consummate silent protagonist, he is the consummate, I've got a butt ton of gear, here it all is. Now, we've only got a certain amount of slots that we can put stuff in, and we're not going to be, spoiler alert, having anything on the ground around him. We're going to be using that mostly for aesthetics. So we need to work efficiently when it comes to his gear. But we will get onto that once we've coloured him in. We're actually going to colour him in first, and then we're going to get onto the rest of the gear, I think. So let's do that. Let's get right down to it. Now, we're going to go with this skin colouring, but of course we are going to be editing the hair because, you know, he's blonde. So that is pretty accurate, I would say. And we've got this kind of maple, but again, that's a little bit too much, so I think we're going to keep it at that blonde, and that's going to be absolutely fine. Now, for the rest of him, as I say, this is mostly supposed to be kind of metal on the top, but we're going to change that up and go with this kind of cloth, and this is very much the colour we're going to be going with for the majority of the build. As you can see, it's very green. You know, that's what Link is known for being. We can possibly add a little bit of accenting in here. We're going to make this part green as well, and zooming around to the back, I think it's pretty much going to deal with itself, and it does. So that's fine. We're going to make this section green as well. And he's got this part going up the middle, which we can keep it as green. There's no reason not to. And we can just add on green to the cap, green to these parts, and that, I'm pretty sure, is all the green we need. This part, you can see a little bit of the base material coming through. That's just because of the texturing. It's nothing to worry about. And already we're starting to see the basis of Link. Now, as to the rest of it, this colour next to it, this sort of, it's called Warm Walnut, but it is this kind of very dark mossy green, which I think goes really nicely as a sort of counterbalance to the very vibrant rich green that we have. I've actually changed the wrong thing there, so let's just do a bit of undoing. Yeah, I wanted to make this part that colour. Yeah, that's right. Lovely. And then you go there, and you're fine there as well. So yeah, that is pretty much that section done. That's most of what we need to do with the cloth is done there. Now we can move on to more of the leathers, but first, just before we do, we want to sort out, yeah, that bit there. Just make his trousers, let's see if we can do it a little bit darker. Let's make it this colour. Yeah, I think that'll be, you know what? Let's go with the lighter grey. Yeah, that's fine. Cool, so now we can move on to the leathers, and we're going to be using a vast selection of these. Something like this is good for the tops of the boots. And we will just colour that little bit, and the rest of it will be a different brown. Yeah, we can use a lot of different browns and stuff here. This underside here we're going to deal with in a little bit, but for the most part, Ranger Hide is going to be quite good for the belt sections. I think. can probably try and do this actually. Yeah, that actually adds a little bit of accenting and highlighting and just makes him a little bit of a different colour. And I think we're going to try and add that to the boots as well. Let's see how good that looks. So I've got my colour palette on my other screen just so I can easily see what kind of things we're working with. And I think that is not bad. Yeah, I quite like that. And we'll make his gloves that brown as well. Yeah, that's pretty good for Link. The only other section we've got to do is this, and I want to make these a little bit different. So what kind of, that's too red. This isn't bad. I want to make this sort of, the outer bits a different colour to the inner bits. The outer bits are a little bit, yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, I quite like that. We'll make the straps that colour as well. And now he's got these kind of what could almost be wooden greaves, but they're going to be leather. And that is his clothing very much sort of sorted out. The only thing we need to do is this bit. Now, on the armour that we've got, the outer layer is supposed to be metal, underneath which we have this kind of cloth. But weirdly what we're doing with Link is we're doing the opposite. We're making the outer layer this kind of leathers and cloths for the colouring and the texture. The inner layer is going to be his chainmail, which he wears under his tunic. So we're actually going to put that in. I think I want it a bit lighter. Yeah, there we go. And that's going to be that. And we will just add, let's drop in some slightly off-colour gold for the buckles. And that's his clothing very much done. And that is Link. Pretty much sorted. Seeing if there's any other colours there I want to use. No, I think that's pretty much good. So that's his clothing done. It's very recognisably Link, but we can make it even more so with the rest of his gear. So let's sort that out. First off, very quickly, we're going to sort out the base. We're going to give it a nice stone texture. And we're just going to put, my go-to for kind of outside people is the pine cone and leaf combination. I really quite like it. I think it's very effective. So we're going to do that. Let's get some natural colours going here. We want to use some mossy colours, I think. Maybe not too many of those. Yeah, that's not bad. A little bit of pebble grey. And a little bit more of the darker one. Yeah, I like that. Oh, there's a little bit we missed there. We'll just make that a little bit more mossy. There we go. Very nice. And then we can sort out the leaves. We're going to do majority sort of this nice fresh green. Yep. We'll add a little bit of autumn colours in there too. So just a splash of the orange and maybe this lighter green to go underneath. Yeah, that's quite nice. And we'll add a wood colouring for the pine cones. Walnut, maybe a bit darker. There we go, very nice. Yeah, and that shows him being outside in nature and stuff like this. But now is where we get on to really making him Link. So what we need is the sword and the shield. Ideally we need a bow, which means quite frankly we need arrows and just any kind of pouch that we can add on. So looking at the side, this is probably the best pouch we've got. We'll add that there because it goes along with the downward slope of the belt. And what we want to do is make that kind of a lighter colour just to stand out. How about that? Yeah, that's good. And we will make the tie the same colour as the belt. Very simple. We'll call that, say, his bomb bag, for example. The pouch where he keeps bombs. Not very big, but like Link is the epitome of Magic Satchel. You know, that thing that they have, it's this kind of anime or gaming trope where like you have the bag that is just full of stuff. You carry so much more than you can see on your person. Something called Magic Satchel, of which in D&D the classic case is Bag of Holding, for example, is just a bag that can contain much more than it possibly can from outside. It's the TARDIS of holding things. But that's going to be that. On the other side, we can start giving him some weapons. So let's give him that. Now, if we scroll down right to the very bottom, the options you can have for items on the side are quite limited, but they do give us the option of arrows. And I want this embroidered one, because I think it looks nice. And now we can sort out the arrow heads. I'm pretty sure that he would possibly go for a standard head, or maybe these, the elven arrows. Yeah, I prefer that. I prefer that. So now we've got his arrows in, let's give them a splash of colour. We'll go darker on the inside and lighter on the outside, and that will play very nicely. We'll make the arrows that colour, and now let's give him, we want to try and give him green. That's a little too light. That's perfect. Yep. Give him some nice green feathered arrows, and it's starting to come together nicely. So now let's sort out what's on his back. Now, we don't want to give him a cloak. We do want to give him a bow. So let's do that. So we've got the long bow. I pretty much prefer the short bow here. I think that will look much better. And his bow, like, it does have that distinctive curve to it. It's sort of straight and then curved around towards the outer part. So that's what we're going to do. So let's give that a splash of colour as well. Now, we want this to be wood. And walnut is quite a nice wood, I think. What have we used for this? Yeah, I think we'll go with walnut. A nice light coloured bow. Yeah, very nice. And this is my favourite binding colouring for stuff like that, so I'm just going to go with it. It plays nicely with the green as well. It offsets the green nicely and looks quite good with the various leathers that we've got as well. The various sort of brown leathers. So that's his bow and arrow sorted, but of course, as we know, Link is known for his sword and shield. Now, we can get quite close with these, so let's do that. First off, let's look at the sword. Now, obviously, it's a long blade. We could give him a greatsword. Oh, no, that's on the back. Sorry, I've gone wrong there. Thankfully, there is an undo function, which is really nice. So let's try that again. We could give him the greatsword, and actually, two things here. Firstly, we're not going to give him the greatsword. It's not quite like elaborate enough, and secondly, it's in his wrong hand. From what I've seen from various games, I'm pretty sure Link is sometimes seen as left-handed. So we're going to get rid of that, and we will scroll down. There is something I'm looking for here. That is a sword I very rarely use in my build, but I think it's going to once again play very nicely here. This is it, the Claymore. Because as you can see, it's got these kind of upward tilting cross-guard bit with a little bit of fun stuff here to play with, and we can make this quite good. We can make this quite accurate to the Master Sword. So that's what we're going to try and do. If we go to the metal section, the blade itself is just going to be your regular kind of colouring, and now we need to work with purple and blue. So the main thing here is going to be the purple, which is what we're going to stick in here and here. And already it's looking a little bit more Master Swordy. I think that's the purple we want to go with. This one is a little bit maybe too blue, and that's not what we want to really do. But we will be adding some blue in the form of the grip, which is going to be this colour, and that is very Master Sword. You've got the blues, you've got the purples. We can't go into too much detail here, but it's recognisably the Master Sword. Now, where we can go into detail is with the shield, and this is hopefully going to bring him very much to life as Link. So if we go onto the gear, we'll have a look at the shields, and this is the shape we're looking for. But this is the shield we're looking for. It's called the Royal Shield, which is very appropriate. We're going to add it on here, and now we can really look to add some colour. So let's do that. The outer part is going to be much your common or garden silver. We're going to make these points silver as well, and these bits. I have a reference pad just over here, where I can sort of see more what I'm doing. And now we need to add in the golds, the blue, the red. So the gold, now this Sunhelm Hero coloured gold is what we've used for his buckles and stuff, but this is a royal shield, so we're going to go with the proper gold. And we're just going to stick that on the top part. We're going to add, the proper red is going to be these side parts. But then we're going to add a slightly duller, more rusty red to this line down here and these dots in there. Now, just before I do anything else, I'm going to add the leather binding here for him to be able to hold the shield. If I colour that, he's going to do the main body as well. That's unfortunate. We can't colour the back and front differently, but that's okay because all we need now is a little bit of blue. And there it is. That's as closest to the Master Shield as we're going to get, and it's pretty accurate. Like, we can't go into too much detail here. We can't have the Triforce symbol. We can't do all that with this, with what we're working with. But that's not too bad at all in terms of Link's Master Shield. I'm going to see if that red's any better. I don't really want to go too far off with it. But that's pretty good for Link, to be honest. Like, we've given him everything we can. And now we can just sort out the pose. We want a fighting pose for Link. We do. We really do. And this one is probably the best. That's probably the best pose we're going to get. You can see everything there. And everything is coloured in. So we'll zoom in on the head just so we can zoom out again on the races. But that is very much Link done and completed. So let's give him a little bit of a walk around. As you can see, the armour is all in there. We've taken stuff that isn't sort of Link's light armour tunic kind of stuff, but we've made it work with the colour and materials we've got. The Master Sword and the Hylian shield are as close as we can get, making him very recognisable. He's got the boots, he's got the bottom part of the tunic is much more tunicky, so that works. He's got as much gear as he can carry. You know, the bow is there. It's unfortunately sticking into his arse a little bit. So we're just going to very quickly edit that by twisting it just enough, not too far, just enough to make that not happen anymore. That can happen sometimes when you're trying to work on a custom pose. Things will sort of blend into each other. It's just the nature of the builds. Sometimes these things do sort of merge into each other, but you can play around with them and make them look much better. So yeah, now that we fixed that, we can continue the walk around. He's got the arrows at his side. Ideally, I'd like them on his back, but there's only so much we can do. Now, we could add a quiver to his back, but it might just mess up sort of the look of how the bow just looks strapped across his back. So I'm going to keep them at his side for now. Moving further around, we can see the sort of the arm greaves there, much clearer on this side where he's holding the sword. Again, quite clearly the Master Sword. I'm going to add just a touch of colour to the base because I always forget to do that. A bit of primer, very nice. And we scroll them further around, there's his little pouch, and we're back to the front view of Link. So, that's going to be it from this episode of Let's Make a Mini. Thank you all very much for watching. I do hope that you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this particular Link build, and if there are any other characters you want to see me build, put them down in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter. You can always catch me there. I've got both my Twitter links in the description. Also in the description, as ever, you will find links to HeroForge, the site I'm using for all your TTRPG minifig building needs. HeroForge is the site for me, might be the site for you too. It's very user-friendly, the interface is very easy to use. I highly recommend giving it a shot. You'll also find links to the inspiration behind this series, Tulok the Barbarian, and his building character series over on his YouTube channel. But that's going to be it from me. I've rambled on far too long, so my final thank you to you all for watching. And I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.